Thursday, 8 p.m. The fire crackled in front of my eyes, and the kids talking around the fire didn't really bring my attention. Neither did the counselors telling scary stories. Sure, they were a little scary, but it just didn't interest me. In fact, this whole camp was boring. I wished Mom didn't send me to summer camp. Cameron, my best friend, would have accompanied me during the summer, and we would have played video games all day, every day. Mom knew I didn't like the outdoors. Sometimes, I thought she just wanted to torture me. I didn't like the outdoors, and for good reason. There would always be my bully wandering around. Her name was Stacy. I hid as often as I could without my own friends calling me a baby for not facing her. I wasn't afraid to hit a girl, I just didn't want to. I bet that Cameron was in his house right now, eating a bowl of chips and shooting people on ballistic. Our moms didn't approve of our shooting games. They were afraid we'd turn out to be murderers when we grow up. Me, in jail, no thanks. Cameron and I both agreed that our moms were a little overprotective. Maybe she was just being protective by sending me here away from my home while the police asked questions about Uncle Ken. It broke my mom's heart that Uncle Ken was being charged with murder. It was hard to believe it myself. When I was little, he would always be the cool uncle and bring me gifts on my birthday and for Christmas. Guess he was more than meets the eye. Like Transformers, except he wasn't a vehicle. When I had overheard my mom and dad talking to each other late at night about Uncle Ken breaking into this old woman's house and stealing things, then killing her because she'd allegedly startled him, still, it wasn't right. He'd stolen from an old lady's home and killed her. And as far as I knew, he was on the loose and considered extremely dangerous. If there was a crazier killer on the loose, I would have thought that Mom would want to keep me as close to her as possible. But no, she said she'd send me to camp with a whole bunch of people I don't know or even like. I was stuck here for the whole summer. Janelle, I think that was her name, trembled as the counselor continued with the story. It was about some college student who roamed the grounds with a knife and would kill people because he was, well, crazy. I tried not to let it bother me too much, because I didn't want to think about some 20-year-old sneaking up behind me and pulling out a knife, then cutting me up into little bits. I was pretty sure the counselor had also mentioned that the serial killer was a cannibal and ate the hearts of his victims. It made me shudder a little. To distract myself from the story, I ate my s'more. Though part of it fell and I caught it with my other hand, and then quickly gobbled it up so nobody would notice. Everyone's attention was mostly on the scary story anyway, so I felt pretty confident that no one had seen. The fire went down to coals before the coach turned his head and jumped back, and stood up when someone appeared in the dark, hobbling quickly over his dead eyes, and something in his hand. It was a knife. Everyone around the campfire screamed, including me, and jumped up from their seats on the logs, and some of them shoved their way to the back of the group, in front of the crazed killer. My heart rate skyrocketed, and I was one of the kids who shoved their way to the back of the group. I just hid behind everyone and hoped it would all end. When I'd been expecting the sound of girls to be screaming Bloody Mary like a movie, and the college student to start slashing the kids up with his knife, everyone started laughing. As the laughing died down, I brought my head up. Turns out, it was Josh, another counselor, with mud smeared on his face, and those eyes were no longer dead. And the knife he had been holding was fake. When he flung it around as he talked, it whipped from side to side. It was flimsy. I almost sighed in disappointment. Ben was another bully, but a new one. He liked to pick on me around the camp and make me clean stuff and blame me for stealing things. He swung his arm around my shoulder and laughed until his face was red. "Man, you look angry enough to pee yourself." One of his friends laughed with him. "Pete is a chicken." "I'm not," I screamed back, then flung his arm to the side. Ben looked like he was going to rip my arm off for doing that. But I was saved by another counselor. "That's enough fun tonight, kiddos," laughed Josh as he patted the other counselor's back proudly. Everyone turned to go to their cabins and get some sleep, so Ben and I went our separate ways, but I could feel him glowering at my back until I disappeared into his cabin with his buddies. And I did too, except I didn't have any buddies, just 3 different bunkmates. 2 slept on one side, Dustin and I slept on the other. Quickly, I slipped into my plain blue pajamas and snuggled into the sleeping bag, then fluffed up my pillow. Dustin moved to the top bunk and looked down at me and smiled a little. "Don't worry about those guys. Besides, I saw Ben cower back there too, so you definitely weren't the only one." On the other side, Lance and Aaron were already snoring. I nodded and pulled the sleeping bag up to my chest. "Thanks, Dustin." "Anytime, buddy. Night," he said when he went back to sleep. Night. I sighed and tried closing my eyes, but the breeze outside kept me awake, even though I could barely hear it. Dustin had fallen asleep within 10 minutes, so I was the only one awake in the cabin. It took me what seemed like forever to finally fall asleep. Friday, 7:30 p.m. Oatmeal had been served for breakfast, and orange juice. "Later today we would be taking a hike," said the counselor. I just hoped Josh and him wouldn't be pulling another one of those pranks. It had shaken me up quite a bit, though I wasn't going to admit to anyone that it was hard to admit to myself, even though I wasn't talking out loud. I played with a spoon inside the bowl. I wanted to call Mom and see how she was doing, but that wasn't going to happen, especially with the other students watching me constantly. Ben hadn't taken his eyes off me the entire morning. It was like he was telling me he was planning my funeral. I dreaded what he had in store for me. Dustin and Janelle sat beside me, and so did Lance and Aaron, but we're talking about the boat racing. I wasn't interested, but they tried to include me anyway. "Yo, Peter," said Lance, "we're going to do that boat race tomorrow. Would you like to be on our team?" It would be rude to turn them down, so I just shrugged and said, "Yeah, I guess." Great. Janelle clapped and ate some of her oatmeal and gulped down her orange juice. We'll be glad to have someone else along. No one else seems interested in the boat racing. Or in us, for that matter. We're basically the misfits. And don't ask me why they named it this of Camp Cockaroo. I snickered at the name. Do you all know each other? They all glanced at each other, and Aaron said, "Our parents know each other. They all went to this camp when they were our age." "Sounds like fun," I said. "I just moved here from California. My mom said this place was safer than there, so I guess Ohio is our home now." "Welcome to Ohio then," Janelle said cheerfully, and stacked empty dishes. I polished off my oatmeal and handed the bowl to her. Thanks, I guess. I shrugged, and guzzled the rest of my orange juice. Anyway, I ought to get ready for the hike. Yeah, me too. Meet you at the fire pit when we're ready, yeah? He was talking to Janelle, who didn't bunk with them since it was a boys' cabin. She nodded quickly, and we all stood heading to our cabins to get ready. Dustin, Lance, Aaron, and I pulled out our hiking shoes and jackets and brought along the proper supplies for being out in the woods. It was quite sunny outside, so I decided to put on sunscreen. It was hot and humid, and my shirt sort of stuck to my skin, but I tried my best to ignore it. When we finished getting ready and packing bottles of water, we met up at the fire pit where several other kids had finished getting ready as well. The counselor was walking over, kicking up dirt as he moved. We went over safety rules and such, follow the leader, stay on the trail, make sure you bring water, bring a compass, don't be a dillweed, etc. I didn't really pay much attention to what he said, but I was still prepared, I think. Aaron carried a backpack full of God only knows what, so I asked, what's in there? We started on the trail and followed the counselors, and Aaron looked at me. Oh, this? A few ponchos, pack of water bottles, flashlights, a compass, a bunch of energy bars. Hey, don't you think that's a bit much? Nah, can't ever be too prepared, alright? I guess so. But if we get lost, I don't think energy bars are going to state your hunger for very well. Then again, I didn't bring much food anyway, so I can't really say much. Janelle walked over with a pack of slugs over her shoulder. I'm carrying an orange, a water bottle, a candy bar, of course a compass and a flashlight too, she said proudly. Aaron and Dustin smiled wildly and had packs of their own. They all seemed proud of themselves. Me? I just brought a half-full bottle of water and some stale chips from a week ago, so I just shrugged. Sounds like you guys are all set, I told them with a slight smile. Seems like you don't like the outdoors to me, said Janelle with a suspicious look. Not really, I shrugged again. Why here if you don't like the outdoors? Dustin asked, seeming awestruck. Well, my mom and dad need some time to take care of some family stuff, so they sent me out here to get out of the way. My uncle killed someone. They all looked at me like I were Uncle Ken and I would kill them all right then and there. Lance finally spoke. Who? I don't know her name. She was just an old lady. Dude, that was your uncle? Ken Hangman? Aaron suddenly seemed interested. It looked like his eyes were going to pop out of his head because they were so wide. Yeah, he's a cool guy. I don't believe it, but everyone says he killed her. Guess it runs in the family, I sighed. My great-grandpa killed people, hung them in the woods. What a fitting name, Janelle said with a quiver. Stay tuned for part 2 of The Hanging Man.